My name is Camille Hayes, and if you'd told me 2 years ago that my older sister would try to run my life with a 3 ring binder, I would have laughed in your face. But then again, I also would have thought no one in their right mind would expect me to give up my job, my relationship, and my sanity to become their full time, unpaid babysitter. Vanessa always had a flair for drama. Growing up in Portland, Oregon, she was the star of every school play, every family dinner, and every meltdown that wasn't about her. So I shouldn't have been surprised when she rang my apartment buzzer one rainy Thursday evening, marched in with a latte in one hand and a thick pastel-colored binder in the other. She dropped it on my kitchen island like she was presenting a business proposal. "I know you're busy, so I made it easy," she said, flipping it open with a well-manicured hand. Inside was a laminated calendar, color-coded with pink and blue tabs, outlining my new responsibilities for her baby, who, I should note, hadn't even been born yet. Tuesday and Thursday nights were marked for overnight care. Weekends had my name plastered from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. Holidays, Christmas Day was circled in red ink with the words, "Full day coverage, non-negotiable." I thought it was a joke. I laughed, out loud, but she didn't. Vanessa's face didn't flinch. She tapped the calendar twice and said, "This isn't funny, Cam. I need to know you're committed to this." I stared at her, stunned. "You're asking me to give up my life?" She scoffed. "You're not giving up anything. You don't even have kids. You wouldn't understand." I told her I needed time to think. The next morning, my phone blew up. Vanessa had posted a glowing Facebook announcement, "Feeling so blessed to have my sister by my side as I prepare for this journey. Camille has already stepped up in ways I couldn't have imagined. God really gives you what you need when you need it." She tagged me. I had cousins and aunts commenting, congratulating me, calling me the backbone of family values. That night, Mom called. "Mom, you're doing the right thing," she said, in that tone that always sounded like she was patting herself on the back for raising us. Family helps family. I opened the binder again after we hung up. I was penciled in for New Year's, Labor Day, and even my own birthday. Vanessa didn't ask me to help. She assigned me. And somehow, everyone else was already applauding her for it. At first, I thought maybe I was overreacting. Maybe Vanessa was just overwhelmed and clinging to control the only way she knew how. But then her baby, Liam, was born, and everything I feared became reality. Vanessa didn't ask if I was free. She informed me when I'd be needed. Her texts were never phrased as questions, just statements. "Dropping Liam off at 6. Make sure the bottles are warm. Don't forget he needs the hypoallergenic diapers, not the regular ones. I'll pick him up when I can." And by "when I can," she usually meant anywhere between midnight and the next morning. I work in marketing strategy for a boutique firm in downtown Portland. We're small, scrappy, and every pitch meeting counts. So you can imagine my horror when, during a presentation to a potential 6-figure client, the receptionist poked her head into the glass conference room and mouthed, "Emergency." I excused myself, heart racing. Had something happened to Mom? A car crash? A fire? No. It was Vanessa in the lobby, wearing oversized sunglasses indoors, sipping on a green juice, scrolling on her phone. Liam was asleep in his carrier at her feet. "Perfect timing," she said. "My nail appointment's in 20. You can feed him while he naps. Oh, and he might be teething." Before I could respond, she kissed the air in my direction and walked out. I stood there with the baby in my arms while a dozen confused clients stared at me through the glass walls. I wanted to scream, but that still wasn't the worst of it. My best friend Ellie was getting married. A gorgeous spring wedding in Hood River. Cherry blossoms in full bloom, string lights hanging from beams, white roses on every table. I was her maid of honor, and that day was supposed to be perfect. Until I heard a baby crying in the parking lot. Heads turned. There was Vanessa, heels sinking into gravel, stroller stuck, mascara already smudged from frustration. She pushed Liam toward me like a return at customer service. "I have a date," she said, thrusting a note into my hand. "Be a lifesaver." I opened the note. It simply read, "Handle this." Liam was red-faced and inconsolable. And then I saw them. Faint purple bruises on his tiny forearms. Finger-shaped. My stomach twisted. I spent the wedding in the venue bathroom, rocking a screaming infant, listening to muffled vows through tiled walls. And when I tried to talk to Vanessa about the bruises later, she laughed. He's a baby, they bump into things. Don't be dramatic. But that was the moment something inside me shifted. This wasn't just inconvenient, it was dangerous. 8 months after Liam was born, my fiancé Felix booked us a trip to Prague. He lived in Berlin, and we hadn't seen each other in over half a year. He proposed during Christmas on a snowy bridge over the Spree, slipping a vintage ring onto my finger with trembling hands. We'd been counting down to this reunion like it was oxygen. I saved every cent. Skipped coffee, canceled streaming services, worked late nights to afford the flight and hotel. It was the only thing keeping me sane during the chaos my sister kept throwing at me. At our monthly family dinner, I finally announced it. Bright-eyed, excited, hoping for support. Instead, Vanessa blinked at me from across the pot roast and said, "Oh, bummer. I just put a deposit down on a girl's trip to Cabo. Guess we'll have to reschedule yours." I stared at her, stunned. She turned her phone around, showing a confirmation email. My flight dates, exactly the same. She grinned. "I mean, you can see your guy anytime. This is real sister stuff." Mom nodded, sipping her wine. "Family first, Camille. You know that." They'd already decided. They had a babysitting schedule printed out on the kitchen counter. My name scribbled across every day I'd planned to be overseas. It was the first time in my life I didn't just roll over. I set my fork down carefully. "No." They paused. Vanessa tilted her head. "No what?" "I'm not watching him. I have a life. You're not entitled to it." Mom's voice dropped an octave, sharp and warning. "Careful how you speak to your sister." "I'm done being quiet," I said. Vanessa smiled, cold. "Fine. We'll figure something else out." I should have known from that eerie calm something was coming. I didn't hear from them again until the morning of my flight. 4:47 a.m. I jolted awake to the sound of screaming. Raw, desperate, high-pitched. It was coming from outside. Terrified, I grabbed my phone and padded barefoot to the front door. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely undo the chain. I peeked through the mail slot. There on my porch in the pale glow of the motion light was Liam, alone, in a t-shirt and diaper, shivering. Tears streaked his face. His lips were faintly blue. Taped to his chest was a note. "Thanks for watching him." I swung open the door and grabbed him into my arms. He was ice cold, sobbing so hard his little body shook. I wrapped him in a blanket and pressed him to my chest, dialing Felix with one hand. He picked up instantly, no questions asked. Just, "I'm booking the next flight. Stay there. Don't let them near you." And then I checked my doorbell camera. Vanessa appeared at 4:31 a.m. No knock, no hesitation. Just left him and walked off into the freezing dark, like he was a bag of trash. That was the moment I stopped being her sister and became Liam's protector. EPS arrived less than 30 minutes after I called. The caseworker, a woman named Erica with steel in her voice and sadness in her eyes, took one look at Liam and called for emergency removal. She didn't need to see the footage to know something was very wrong, but I showed her anyway. We sat on my couch, Liam swaddled in a blanket, sleeping fitfully in my lap as I pulled up the doorbell camera file. There it was. Vanessa, 4:31 a.m., dropping her son like a package. Not even checking if anyone was home. Not knocking, not texting, not calling. "She could have killed him," Erica said softly, voice tight. 28 degrees out there. She handed me a card and said, "If anyone tries to take him or threatens you in any way, call me directly." I thought that was the worst it could get. It wasn't. That afternoon, I got a text from Vanessa. "How's my little man? He crash early? LOL. She had no idea CPS had taken him, so I replied, "He's fine." She sent a thumbs up emoji. I didn't hear from her again until she landed 2 weeks later, bronzed from Cabo, wearing a $600 jumpsuit and a smug smile. She showed up at my door without warning. I didn't answer, just watched her on the door camera as she pounded the frame and shouted, "Where is he?" 10 minutes later, Mom showed up too. She must have broken speed limits getting there, screeching into the driveway like a woman possessed. I could hear her voice through the walls before she even got to my floor. "You ungrateful little snake!" she yelled the moment I opened the door an inch. I had my phone in one hand, recording. "You turned on your own sister," she hissed, face flushed, eyes wild. "Do you know what you've done?" Vanessa pushed past me before I could react. "Where is his bag? His formula? I'm taking my baby." "You're not taking anything," I said. "He's in CPS custody." She shoved me hard. I fell back into the edge of the coffee table, pain blooming along my spine. Stars danced in my eyes. I tasted blood. Then through the haze, I heard Felix's voice. He'd arrived early. Just in time. He stepped between me and my sister, his tone dangerously calm. "You will leave. Now, or I will call the police." Mom started to speak. "This is a family." Felix pulled out his phone. She stopped. They left, but not before Vanessa turned at the doorway, her face twisted in rage. "This isn't over," she snarled. "You'll regret this, both of you." The door slammed so hard the framed photos on the wall trembled. That was the beginning of the war, the part where the people you love most become your enemy. And all I had left was truth, and the man who refused to let me face it alone. The next morning, my phone started ringing before sunrise. Unknown numbers, blocked calls, voicemails filled with rage, guilt trips, and veiled threats. Vanessa sobbing, Mom screaming, Aunt Grace pleading, Uncle Don warning me to fix this before it gets worse. By noon, I'd blocked over 15 numbers. By nightfall, they started using different tactics. I came home from work to find a small package on my doorstep. No return address. Inside was a baby onesie, Liam's size, with a note written in Sharpie. "He misses his aunt. You did this." The next day, another package arrived, this time with a photo of Liam crying, clearly recent. I hadn't sent that photo to anyone. I reported it to the police. They took a statement but said unless the threats became explicit, there wasn't much they could do. "Family stuff is complicated," the officer muttered, handing me a case number like a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. My boss, Janet, called me into her office the following week. She'd noticed the stress. My performance hadn't dropped, but the bags under my eyes, the jumpiness, the way I checked my phone mid-meeting, it was all too obvious. "Take a few days, work from home. We'll handle it," she said gently. I nearly cried in her office, but the worst hadn't come yet. That night, I got a message on Facebook. A man named Caleb Rivers, Vanessa's ex, Liam's father. He said he'd been trying to get custody for over a year. Every time he filed, Vanessa painted him as unstable, claimed he had a temper. The courts believed her because he didn't have enough evidence, just a trail of frustration and blocked visitations, until now. He asked if I'd meet him somewhere public, neutral, safe. I chose a cafe downtown with floor-to-ceiling windows and 2 exits. Felix insisted on walking me there. Caleb looked exhausted. Unshaved, shirt wrinkled, hands trembling as he opened a file folder that had clearly been handled hundreds of times. Inside, hospital records from 3 separate ER visits, each one claiming Liam had fallen off the changing table. Texts from Vanessa joking about using just enough cough syrup to make Liam sleep. Photos. Liam with bruises, rashes, dirty onesies. Screenshots of money transfers proving Caleb never missed child support. "I just want to keep my son safe," he whispered, voice cracking. "I can't do that without help." I gave him Erica's contact info at CPS. He grabbed my hand, not romantically, just desperately, and said, "Thank you for everything." That night, Vanessa showed up at my hotel. Hi, ranting, threatening. Felix stood between her and the door while hotel security dragged her away. The dent she left in the wood with her foot stayed there for weeks. So did the fear. The courtroom smelled like old carpet and recycled tension. I sat beside Erica, my CPS caseworker, and our lawyer, Patricia Owens, a sharp woman in her 50s who wore her hair in a no-nonsense bun and carried 3 binders full of receipts, reports, and rage. Vanessa entered in a tailored navy suit that didn't belong to her. Her hair was curled, makeup flawless, expression rehearsed. She looked like the picture of maternal innocence, if you ignored the fact that she'd left her child to freeze to death on someone's porch. She had a lawyer, too, A man who made a big show of carrying nothing but a yellow legal pad and a smirk. Their argument? That I was jealous, vindictive, that this entire case was built on resentment from childhood. Mom took the stand. She called me volatile, claimed I always tried to outshine Vanessa, told the judge I was not emotionally stable enough to testify fairly. I stared at her the whole time, but she never looked at me, like I wasn't real, like I wasn't her daughter. When it was my turn, I stood up with Felix in the gallery behind me, his presence grounding me like an anchor. I played the security footage. Vanessa walking up to my apartment door, Liam in her arms. No coat, no bag, just a t-shirt and diaper. She set him down, walked away. I heard the judge exhale sharply through her nose. Then the text messages, the packages, the threats, photos of bruises. My medical report from when Vanessa shoved me into a coffee table. Finally, Erica stood and confirmed everything I'd reported was backed by CPS investigations and interviews. Caleb testified next. He brought charts, real ones, from Liam's doctors. Progress on his weight gain, language development, iron levels, sleep habits. He played a short clip of Liam laughing so hard he hiccuped, while reaching for a toy in his new nursery. It hit me like a wave. I had almost forgotten what it sounded like for him to laugh. Then Vanessa testified. She called Caleb a liar, claimed CPS was biased, said I was trying to steal her baby out of revenge. Even her lawyer looked embarrassed. When the judge spoke, her voice was low but firm. She ruled full emergency custody to Caleb. Vanessa's parental rights were suspended indefinitely. No visitation, no contact. Not until she completed rehab, parenting classes, weekly drug tests, and 6 months of clean living. With evidence. Vanessa collapsed. She screamed that she was being punished for being too beautiful and misunderstood. The judge didn't blink. As the bailiff escorted her out, she turned toward me and shouted, "I will ruin you for this." But I wasn't scared anymore. Not when truth had finally spoken louder than blood. For a little while, things quieted. Caleb was thriving with Liam. He'd moved to a ground-floor apartment, baby-proofed everything, and even hired a part-time nanny to help during work hours. He sent me weekly photos, Liam in tiny pajamas, Liam finger painting, Liam eating blueberries with half of them stuck to his cheek. For the first time in months, I started to breathe again. Then the call came. It was Erica. Caleb had been in a car accident. A drunk driver had run a red light, T-boned his car at an intersection near his office. Internal bleeding. 2 broken ribs. He'd survived, but he wouldn't be able to lift Liam, let alone care for him, for weeks. They needed an emergency placement, and fast. I know it's a lot to ask, Erica said, but Liam knows you, trusts you. Would you consider taking him temporarily? Felix and I stayed up that night talking. He didn't hesitate. If we're going to have a life together, he said, then we start by doing what's right. Liam arrived on a Tuesday afternoon, clinging to the social worker's leg at first, wide-eyed and unsure. But when I pulled out a small stuffed otter he used to love, he smiled. By dinner time, he was curled up against me on the couch like he'd never left. The next morning, the storm returned. Someone at CPS had leaked that Liam was with me. Packages started arriving again. Baby clothes, religious pamphlets, photos of Liam with captions like, "You stole him." God sees everything. Family doesn't do this. One afternoon, I looked up from the playground bench and saw a woman watching us from across the park. She pretended to read, but her eyes never left Liam. When I packed up to leave, she followed. I ducked into a bookstore and called 911. It turned out she was a friend of my mother's from church. She admitted that Mom had asked her to check on Liam. The police gave her a warning. My lawyer filed to expand the restraining order to include third-party contact. The judge approved it immediately, but it didn't stop there. Uncle Don tried to pick Liam up from daycare, claiming there was a family emergency. Thankfully, I'd warned the staff ahead of time. They called me, then the police. He was arrested for attempted custodial interference. That split the family. Some finally opened their eyes. Others dug in deeper, creating a Facebook group called Justice for Vanessa, raising money for her legal comeback, and even selling t-shirts with her face on them. Meanwhile, I just kept showing up for Liam, feeding him, holding him, singing lullabies until his nightmares faded, because I'd made a choice. Even if blood turned against me, I would never turn against that child. 6 months later, Caleb was finally well enough to take Liam home. He'd been through physical therapy, moved to a safer apartment with no stairs, and even set up a tiny reading corner with all of Liam's favorite books. We worked out a smooth transition. He took weekends first, then short overnights until Liam adjusted. The day I packed up Liam's little suitcase, he clung to my leg and called me Mimi, his version of Camille. I smiled through the tears and told him, "You're going to be just fine, sweetheart. You're going home." He didn't understand, not really. But when he saw Caleb at the door, he ran straight into his arms. That joy on his face, it made everything worth it. The final custody hearing was held in early spring. Vanessa appeared via video from county jail, wearing an orange jumpsuit and a scowl that could cut glass. She hadn't completed rehab. She hadn't passed a single drug test. But she still demanded full custody. Claimed everyone, CPS, Caleb, me, had conspired to steal her son and her life. The judge listened quietly, flipping through a thick case file. Then she turned to me and Caleb, asking for our final statements. I told the court what I'd witnessed. The bruises, the cold night, the abandonment. I spoke about the packages, the stalking, the fear, and about the love that had grown in my apartment between me and that little boy. Caleb spoke next, showing new photos, medical charts, daycare reports. Liam was gaining weight, hitting milestones, thriving. He'd stopped flinching when someone raised their voice. He was finally safe. Then the judge ruled. Full permanent custody to Caleb. Vanessa's parental rights were terminated until Liam turned 18, and only then could he choose contact. As the verdict was read, Vanessa exploded, screaming, cursing, sobbing. The bailiff muted her video feed halfway through the tirade. But the echo of her threat still lingered. Later that day, my mother violated her probation by sending a message through a cousin. One more desperate attempt to paint me as the villain. The judge sentenced her to 30 days in jail. That finally silenced her. Felix's visa was approved shortly after. He flew back from Germany with 2 suitcases and a one-way ticket. We married at the courthouse, just us, Janet from my office, and James, our building's doorman, as witnesses. No chaos, no drama, just peace. Caleb invited us to Liam's 2nd birthday. We brought cake, sang off key, and watched him smash frosting into his hair with pure, sticky joy. That little boy? He was safe, loved, whole. And me? I'd lost a family that never really saw me. But I gained something better. A future built on truth, love, and the kind of loyalty that doesn't demand silence. Sometimes protecting the child means standing alone, and sometimes it means becoming the family they never had.